Okay, our fifth method of dispute resolution is rent-a-judge. Rent-a-judge is typically something that only the wealthy will do, and you'll probably find out why in just a couple of minutes. Rent-a-judge is a process that is voluntary, and realistically, the only ones that we're going to be talking about that are not voluntary are adjudication and in some cases arbitration. Do keep in mind that a court can order arbitration. So let's say, for example, you're getting divorced and it's going to court. The judge can decide that, no, we don't want to handle this through adjudication. Rather, we'd prefer to handle it through arbitration. Anyway, rent-a-judge. It is voluntary, and in the case of rent-a-judge, the decisions are typically binding, but they are subject to appeal. They are subject to appeal. Rent-a-judge is something that's usually used by corporations or the very wealthy in property or business disputes. In some cases, the decision handed down by a rent-a-judge can be required to be reviewed by a trial court. So two corporations could be involved in a disagreement or dispute, and the rent-a-judge could come with a decision, but the corporation that did not come out ahead may demand that the case go to adjudication at that point. There is third-party participation in a rent-a-judge case. The third-party decision maker is usually a former judge, sometimes a lawyer. That's why it's called rent-a-judge. Okay, arbitrators do not require a law degree. Typically, judges and lawyers do. So you can kind of see why this would appeal to corporations, because they really want someone deciding the case with a very thorough background in the law. Okay, next on to formality of proceedings. These are flexible. Rent-a-judge is very casual, and they are flexible as to time, to place, and procedures. For me, I like to think of rent-a-judge as very much like mediation, but with a third party who's really got a good understanding of the law and how it works. Okay, proofs and evidence. Proofs and evidence. Much like arbitration, when you come to a rent-a-judge case, each party can present evidence, not evidence to support their case. And I'm going to use the term there because, again, rent-a-judge is most common when you're looking at corporations or institutions that are involved in disputes. What type of decision? Well, this is where a rent-a-judge is very similar to adjudication. With rent-a-judge, you are looking at a win-lose decision. Okay, this means that they're going to decide in favor of one disputant and against another. Again, though, this decision is subject to the judgment of the court. So again, if you are the company that comes out on the losing end of a rent-a-judge, event, for lack of a better term, you are able to request or require that it go to court, and the decision can be presented to a judge who has the right to reverse the decision. Okay, justification of decision. In a rent-a-judge case, there should be a written findings of fact and a conclusion of the law. Just like with adjudication, reason statement. It's possible, but it's not required. Obviously, you do want to have written findings of fact and decision in case of an appeal. If you're sloppy, well, then a decision is more likely to be appealed. The emphasis here is on the adherence to norms, laws, and precedent. I like to think of rent-a-judge as kind of like a trial, but without getting the courts involved. It's kind of like a private trial, if you will. And that leads us to the nature of the process. The nature of the process here is that it is a private process unless, and this is a big unless, judicial enforcement is sought. Judicial enforcement is sought. Okay, well now what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, two companies may have a disagreement over, I don't know, unfair trade practices. They could start the process through a rent-a-judge dispute resolution, but it may be necessary to file, say, a cease and desist order against the company that's, oh, I don't know, making unfair claims about their product to the detriment of your product. So again, the rent-a-judge is fairly private, but like arbitration, it can go public if you need to bring the courts in to enforce the decision. Okay, that is it for rent-a-judge.